Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Hard to Bind for the New Order. Last is Europe, or Silicon Dreams, however you want to put it, as the state of Guangdong. Now, last video, we started doing an investigation into the connections between Taichi, TNO, and some military yen fraud activities. Some stuff going on. It's definitely a little shady, but we still have time to figure that out. Meanwhile, we're gonna hop in and check out some more of the lore of Guangdong. And where else to start at but the city of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a city that has been drifting away from Chinese mainland for nearly 120 years, but it's under its most recent rulers that has transformed the most. The Japanese brought with them their language, their people, who now form nearly 30% of the city, and most importantly, their ruthless corporate mentality. It's here that black-suited men in air-conditioned rooms decide the politics to keep countless millions enslaved for the brutal machine that supplied all of the spear. Here that fortunes are made on scales unimaginable by ordinary men. Here that vicious battles are fought in the boardrooms masked by the sanitized language of the business world. Yet it is here that people work tirelessly, defiantly, dreaming of a better tomorrow, through hard work, despite feeling the corporate boot on their necks. Where the fishermen still cast for nets, where the restless students play football with friends, where the elderly dine with their grandchildren. The rat race consumes all, but the people find a way to briefly escape from it. The fragrant harbor of the Free Pearls is beautiful and vibrant as it is cruel and merciless. Hong Kong is a primary financial and business hub, a place where the squalor, violence, and cruelty of the west of Guangdong cannot be seen through the tall windows of gleaming glass skyscrapers. Interesting indeed. We have our volunteer with our Matsushita prototype rifles, and we're trying to get him up here as soon as we can, because the IGA, they're actually doing pretty well beating back the rebellion. And we gotta make sure that they don't completely wipe out everything. Graduate of the Tokyo Imperial University Law Faculty, Matsushita Bank, Nihonbashi Bakurochu Bank, servicing corporate clients. Conscripted as an officer candidate, discharged as second lieutenant in 42 after deployment to Manchuria. Reassigned to headquarters, namely Deputy Section Chief of Corporate Lending in 47, age 34. Assigned to the Ministry of Finance, later assigned as Section Chief of Corporate Lending. Commended for strategic vision, headed to the head of personnel, 56, General Manager for General Affairs, 58. Suzuki found himself nodding and quiet marvel as he read over Matsuzawa's glittering career, tapping his cigarette against an ashtray. Graduate of Imperial Universities, clearly groomed for success from the start of life. General Manager at 45? The man had lived a charmed life. Suzuki reached the next line and paused. Promoted to Representative Director in 1960, reassigned to Guangdong as Regional Director. Suzuki's eyebrow arched, but the Zaibatsu tended to keep their feature leadership in their home office. Matsuzawa was clearly on that path, but had been reassigned to Guangdong. With a promotion and a fancy title, sure, but nevertheless banished from Tokyo. Likely for angering someone above him in the corporate food chain. And there weren't that many but Matsuzawa at his level. Suzuki extinguished his cigarette with a frustrated sigh. That explained why Matsuzawa was so eager to work for Suzuki. Matsuzawa probably saw Suzuki's ticket back home. But that didn't explain Matsuzawa and the suspected military yen transactions. Matsuzawa could equally be Yasuda's frontman in Guangdong, or he could be completely shut out from the business, a glorified exile. Nothing but more questions. So we have these guys fighting a little bit. And this is, okay, this is more of a bar than anything, it seems. That's interesting. So these guys are actually getting pushed out a little bit. Hiroshima Yamauchi disembarked the combat passenger ship that had transported him across the turquoise and turbulent oceans, stepping onto the concrete dock of Port Shori, Hong Kong. With his arrival, he carried with him the burden and weight of the legacy of his family, a duty to resuscitate a waning endeavor, a venerable yet struggling and unremarkable business focusing on the production of recreational goods, namely playing cards. Yamauchi's business is considerably old, being established by an experienced craftsman decades ago, with the purpose of production of traditional Japanese Hanafuda playing cards. Throughout the years, the family had remained true to their roots, finding slight success in the brief period of post-war prosperity in Japan, but alas, the nature of this economic markets would continuously fluctuate. It was to the surprise of nobody when the market of cards that Yamauchi had specialized in began to be saturated. Profits began dropping. New routes had to be considered. To Yamauchi and many others abroad, Guangdong was a golden land of opportunity, a place where humble business and upstarts could thrive and develop, supported by the means of the current chief executive, Suzuki Taichi. As matters became tenuous on the home islands, Yamauchi turned his attention towards the opportunities that the Three Pearls had to offer, and depart from more lucrative shores. He certainly was not the first, as made evident by the four corporations dominating the administration, and would certainly not be the last. Yamauchi took a deep breath of the tangy air of a Delta and smiled. Here, Nintendo would find success and prosperity. The company will finally be put on stable footing. Now to lay the foundations. Nintendo gang, Nintendo gang. True. That's not gonna work. The clock in Suzuki's silent office seemed to tick louder than ever. The continuous cold beads of sweat rolled down his neck as he cleared his mind of unnecessary thoughts. He holds a stack of papers within his hand, upon which contained all the evidence gathered in Yasuda Bank that was collected. Suzuki knew it. It was undeniable. Something had been happening behind the curtains with Yasuda Bank. The possibilities ranged from suspicious activity within the borders of Guangdong to a degree of corruption occurring in Tokyo itself. Suzuki felt his hand tremble slightly. Whatever impact results from this, it will ever heavily affect him. Matsuzawa and Yasuda had been the most ardent and keen to back and support Suzuki in his actions during his tenure as chief executive, especially Matsuzawa, who had personally vouched support for him. Any failure or scandal on his part will reflect upon him. Still, there is no absolute definitive evidence that Matsuzawa himself was involved in any way, shape, or form in this case. But if it is connected to Yasuda and Guangdong, it could very much possibly involve him. Suzuki could very well place his faith in Matsuzawa, assume he's innocent and ask for help, securing his relations, or he could assume that Matsuzawa was implicated and directly accuse him. Either way, he had to make a choice. Suzuki took a deep breath and made his final decision. I think he has to be connected, right? Yeah. I think he has to be connected. I think we'll go ahead, manufacture additional test rifles. Chen thought that the Japanese were very boring people. It was the only explanation in his mind as to why their names for places were so bland. Shangwan, Wanshai, even names like Repulse Bay were far more interesting and unique than West District, East District, and Green Beach Bay. The fact that the Japanese refused to accept defeat on the name of places only made it worse. If you said a Chinese name, or even worse, a British name, they'd give you a look. When Japanese changed all the street signs, giving directions with street names became far more too much of a hassle to be worth it. Chen was old, and with age came wisdom, and also great stubbornness. For people like him, the new names were always going to be a lost cause, and the rest of his fellow countrymen were much the same. However, Chen even heard Zujin businessmen stumble over the Japanese names, sometimes skip over them entirely and just use the old labels. The only name to find any success was Port Shori, although this wasn't even the first time they tried to replace old Victoria Harbor. Maybe it was just because the Japanese were too impatient. They were trying to do in 20 years what the British managed in a century. Just showed how fake it all was. Hong Kong was still a colony, the people in charge were different, but on the ground it felt all the same. At least the old gave something to latch onto. Meanwhile, Matsushita, champion of domestic appliances, has recommended the W31 air conditioning unit. Where previous air conditioning units required substantial alterations of the building itself, largely limiting their use to commercial or new residences, the W31 unit can be installed in windows with minimal alteration to its whole structures. This promise of a new age of comfort and productivity, while workers can no longer claim the punishing summer heat as an excuse for low output. Sony, pioneers of audiovisual technology, has proposed the TC962A, dubbed the home audio system for the future. This audio player is revolutionary that allows users to enjoy and record vinyl quality recordings on magnetic tape reels in a compact package, adding both form and functionality against legacy phonographs common in urban households. Early observations have indicated considerable popularity among well-to-do Suijin households, though extensive circuitry testing is needed prior to release. Fujitsu, the computing giant, has suggested the Facom 222 mainframe computer, already enjoying praise from key industry figures as the fastest of our time. Boasting a processing prowess of up to 6,250 operations per second, could potentially become the new digital new backbone of financial institutions all across the sphere, relieving the strain of repetitive tasks from the fallible human staff. Chief Executive Suzuki sank into deep thought. A fruitful collection indeed, but this isn't just about the market. Whichever of these four companies gets ahead in the product launch will most likely gain significant influence in the Legislative Council. Which should he subsidize, if any at all? Better air conditioning for everyone. Next, we'll go ahead and do subsidizing the launch. With the finalization of product trials, the time has come to offer subsidies to the product company we have supported in their product releases. With such government incentives, they will certainly produce more. Profits are likely to shoot off of the roof, and their support in the Legislative Council will follow suit. While we are bound to lose some income in the tax breaks offered to the company to promote healthy developments, Suzuki has little doubt that the profits from sales will earn the administration back its money. After all, if investment turnout is going to make riches everywhere, it will be in Guangdong. I mean, shit, Guangdong is IRL is apparently so fucking hot. True, yeah. How are we doing? Speaking of so fucking hot, I gotta say, I fucking love how they're using stuff like temperature or terrain in order to dictate. What? There's a guy, right. Are you out of your mind? After all I have done for you, you come to me with this? Internal corruption with a prime minister. This is absolute rubbish. Ranting Matsuzawa, he slammed the pile of paper upon the table. Suzuki quickly realized the inconceivable blunder he made and moved frantically to apologize. Mr. Matsuzawa, please forgive me for the mistake I've made. I was being extremely rash and active without proper judgment. I warn you, Suzuki, this incident has made me reconsider my support for you in the Legislative Council. Matsuzawa's fast-paced spiel was interrupted by Suzuki. I strongly advise against that. After all, we've been instructed to collaborate by Tokyo. If you withdraw your support from me, it will damage both mine and your career. It is to the benefit of none of us. With this, Matsuzawa relents, obviously looking unsatisfied. Fine. Have your way, Suzuki. But I'll have you know that I will remember this indefinitely, and it will stay in our relations. Suzuki knows absolutely that this will damage hurt his current position, but he has to contain the damage while he can. A political indiscretion. So we might have goofed a little bit there, it looks like. We've used the rifles in jungle environments. Well, now we're using them in jungle environments. We're trying to, at least. I mean, it doesn't prove much. It's probably involved. True. Might be too early to say anything. Let's get some more rifles. I don't know what we want to do over here. I don't think I'll let that be. Mind the financial crash isn't that far away also. True, yeah. Hong Kong is a city that's been drifting away from the Chinese mainland for nearly 120 years, but under its most recent rules had its transformed the most. The Japanese brought from their language, the people who now form nearly 30% of the city, and most importantly, their ruthless corporate mentality. It's here that black suited men in air-conditioned rooms decide the policies to keep countless millions enslaved for the brutal machines that supply all of a spear. Here, that fortunes are made on scales unimaginable by ordinary men. Here, that victorious battles are fought in boardrooms, marked with sanitized language of the business world. From the dizzyingly tall skyscrapers that defy the eye with their size to the casual displays of tremendous wealth that anyone can witness, spending even a single night of a city, Hong Kong is not a place that passes easily from mind. But of course, that is all the better to attract the right kind of investors. For those without the means to show they belong in the world, all that is left is a bitter memory of what could have been. Almost as a testament to the fate that lies for those with endless ambition and nothing else. Hong Kong also holds another much more sobering distinction, perhaps the only city in the world where even the beggar on the street still wears the tattered remains of the sleek suits they once hoped to rule the corporate world in. The city, however, is now no longer the sole domain of all corporate offices, as companies offer financial services of all kinds and banks, realizing the enormous potential of the city, are slowly but surely becoming a part of its landscape. As the Pearl of the Orient evolves and specializes to become a financial hub to rival Tokyo, one thing remains clear. The underlying madness that hides itself beneath the eyes of the wealthiest men in Asia is far from gone, and their furious desire for only growing stronger. Either one controls their money or controls them. It's one of the different TNO's world is really fun how Guangdong, apart from its owners, basically the same as IRL. Yeah, I mean, some things change, some things remain the same. Isn't that the saying? Doing okay in carrying out. There we go. Good morning. It is 8 a.m. Japanese Standard Time, 7 a.m. Canton Time, and time for the morning news. My name is Sugawara Sukero, bringing you the latest development in Guangdong from our studio inside the Canton Government Media Complex. The Japanese government has announced its continuing steadfast support for the Guangdong administration, the co-prosperity's jewel in southern China. Before we begin, a message from Matsushita Corporation, our trusted sponsor and undisputed innovator. Perhaps at this very moment, some of our citizens are tuning in for the first time on their new TV sets from this year's product launch. A most encouraging sign indeed. Our annual festivity is something for everyone, Koshu residents and home island tourists alike. From washing machines to refrigerators, to innovations beyond the wildest of your imaginations. A better life and better world, brought to you by Matsushita. And now on to today's news. As ever, Guangdong shines across the South China Sea as a hub of investment and beacon of prosperity, with an estimated 105 newly registered Cantonese Japanese over the last week. Wait, what do you mean there's a... forgive the interruption. It appears work stoppages have persisted in certain indigenous settlements, but we once again assure every citizen, that every available security report has forecasted total elimination of such inconveniences within the next month, as pledged by Chief Executive Suzuki Taichi in last week's Police Department press conference. Before we begin our next program, let us all, faithful subjects of the Emperor, reminisce of our solidarity in the face of countless adversaries that bore the fruits we enjoy today. Let us wish, with the purest of hearts, 1,000 years to His Majesty, to our perpetual principles of unity and mutual assistance, to our collective triumph against these talons of imperialism, to the everlasting glory of the sphere. How many more of these? 1962 product cycles Matsushita. That'll be some stuff we got. 4th Electronic Conglomerate of Guangdong. It's Nissan subsidiary of Hitachi, led by HoI Eiichiro. Their strategy focused on underselling its competition by selling highly power-efficient electronics. Okay, so what do we got? Interesting. So we got some options here. I think what we'll do, we'll go ahead and hire some more skilled engineers. So there's barely any product interest, and our product quality is not performing well. We'll pay off high-ranking contacts. Let all these play out for a bit and see where that takes us. Meanwhile, get our guy back in there. Keep fighting, soldier. Meanwhile, I think we'll go ahead and link resources and labor. Underneath the very soil we built our homes and roads lay upon mounds, bountiful amounts of minerals buried in sediments, chromium, tungsten, and other natural resources that could flood the economy with riches are just beneath our feet. It's a surprise that authorities have not permitted the excavation of these precious materials beforehand. Let's open up private access to these resources and permit the corporations themselves quarry the riches from beneath the surface. With the approving red stamp from the chief executive, an army of miners, excavators, and machinery will be prepared and march into the countryside where they will extract the minerals directly. We will expect nothing but reports of skyrocketing profits from the corporations and happy investors with pockets lined with green. The children yearn for the mines. Kev gets it. So we kind of have to, some of the other clients were obnoxious, others were officious, still others salacious, and the really bad ones were duplicious. But all told, dealing with them was better than the alternative, Kan Yot Kyung thought. He wished he could work with his father's bank again, but he knew that wasn't a possibility anytime soon. That bank, the best bank of East Asia, had gotten out of the Second Sino-Japanese War, more or less intact because of its connections to Japanese personnel in the area, but even Japanese assurances were not enough to convince the Khan family to keep the bank assets in the area where Guangdong was carved out of China. Most of the bank's goods and half of its large family transferred overseas, to America mostly, for their own safety and carried on from there. The husk of the bank was made a Yasuda subsidiary, and Yot Kyung was forced to register for Zujin status in order to continue to practice law. It was troublesome for Yot Kyung watching his homeland. For Zujin or no Zujin, he was Cantonese by ancestry and proud of it, ruined by injustice and cruelty. More aggravating was the fact that he cannot but keep silent, even though he knew this could not last forever. He could perhaps should have fled, but he stopped himself from doing so now by arguing that he had chosen life he had now anyway. So he decided, day by day, to get the best out of it, while seeing what he could still do. And so it played out. Might force some police prototyping as well, use some of that command power. Wow, selection's interesting. Oh, well, what is that? Well, never mind that. Cigarette in hand, Suzuki pored over the piles of charts and documents on his well-furnished mahogany desk. He barely reacted to the faint knock on the door, the voice of a young secretary. Chief Executive, key piece of paperwork requires your approval. May I enter? Suzuki murmured for him to come without much thought. The secretary gently placed a beige file upon the piles of documents already on the desk, standing aside respectfully as the chief executive opened it and examined the sheets of paper and maps contained within. It was a list of possible sites for resource extraction, specifically tungsten and germanium, both beneficial to Guangdong's industrial pursuits. Markings in red pen dotted the map, designing resource deposits along with their estimated market value. Among them, Suzuki's eyes were set upon one site in particular, a large deposit of tungsten that could be easily efficiently developed and extracted in optimal terrain. However, glaring issues stood as a sizable obstacle. A small village overlaying the site, with possibly hundreds, even thousands of inhabitants. To extract the resource present, it would have to move the entire population and alter their conditions of living. Many of them would undoubtedly be extremely reluctant to leave, possibly requiring large effort by the Kenpai Tai. Suzuki, without any hesitation, stamped his approval upon the sheet of paper. So, where was I? I want to rush down here so we can get the GDP growth, but... yeah. We'll go ahead and we'll just have to appropriate rural land. Information filtered back from local authorities, as well as from representatives from the invested corporations, has informed the House of Peers of an issue concerning the excavation of rural natural resources in the rural region. People live on top of them. Thankfully, Suzuki is just the plan, signing an eminent domain and forcible eviction order to acquire the land from these villages in exchange for a small pittance. We can expect to see them off, and finally begin working in developing the natural resources in the region. Such a minuscule hurdle could not halt the development of Guangdong, nor prevent the riches flowing from the Pearl River. We'll have our profits, peasants or not. What are Mario and Luigi's points of child labor? Mario says child labor is horrible, and you shouldn't use children to do the labor for money. Luigi says, if they got arms, they work in the farms, motherfucker. True. No, go back. How are we doing? Jungle environments we're still working on. Welcome back. How are you, friend? Some extra rifles going. So we got some middle and product quality. We have some low interest from the public. So we gotta decide whether we want to sell to Chinese or the Japanese governments. I think we should sell to the Chinese market. What mod? The New Order. Last Days of Europe. That's the mod. Let's go ahead and sell to the Chinese market. Corruption isn't too bad. Now we check approval. Expat support is kind of high, so we can afford to lose a little bit of that. Force engineers, overtime for engineers. Give some freebies for Chinese, too. I'll move over here. Are they being attacked in here? I'm trying to figure that out. Wait, no, wait. At least we knew when we ensure the usual Chinese workday involves being mangled in industrial machinery constantly. True. At least they'll be cool in the buildings or they jump out the windows. Actually, it's probably gonna obstruct the windows so they can't jump into the nets. So if anything, it's gonna decrease suicide rates, I think. Just east of Koshu's bustling streets, a quiet little village stood undisturbed for centuries, unchanged, even as the land beneath it changed hands from the province, now state, of Guangdong. Chun, the eldest son of a Li family, lay wide awake at dawn, reminiscing over the memories he had made there. The house he had lived in for his entire life was built long before he, or his parents, were even born. Its rudimentary wooden foundation and ash-gray walls standing firm in his 16 years of life. A barrage of hefty vehicles descended upon the village, their exteriors embellished and coarse, emitting an unending stream of pungent and opaque fumes. One of the men stepped forward with a megaphone, in a heavy accent in Cantonese, announced that the village was to be vacated immediately. Do not resist. You will be provided with new residents. At this, the entire Li family awoke. A village elder who had serviced the village for needs for its entire life stumbled to the men, questioning why he had been consulted beforehand. When the order from Chief Executive Suzuki was presented, the elder did not relent, continuing to press the issue. One of the men, growing increasingly frustrated, drew their pistol and slammed into the elder's cheek. This scream of pain echoed throughout the village. 3 consecutive bangs rang out from the front door of the house. Chun's younger brother, HoI, hesitated before opening it, revealing the 2 young Kinpai Tai officers who immediately herded the Li family, Chun, HoI, and Wei, and their parents outside, forcing them towards several olive green trucks in the distance. Chun stole one last glance at the household where he grew up, realizing he'll likely never see it again. Bygone days. Go for a little bit longer. Kinpai Tai test out the products. You could push the launch date forward, potentially. Let's use underworld connections. Move over here. Oh, I need a new focus, that's right. Just forgot for a second. Let's go ahead and resettle the populace. Now homeless Chinese villagers are evicted from their land and found anywhere to stay. And with unemployed laborers wandering the countryside, Suzuki has drafted measures to officially manage the unexploited opportunity. Authorizing relocation orders of communities of Chinese villagers will be resettled in the cities and urban zones and adjustment with the projected development of our territories. They will come by droves by rail, shepherding from rolling hills to the concrete municipalities teeming with life. There, they can exchange their plowshares for full shifts of back-breaking, intensive labor, and the growing industrial economy, so they can work to afford food and shelter in voluminous, buzzing metropolis. Let's do hospital construction and school construction. I'll go ahead and push the launch forward a little bit. Pay off some high-ranking contacts. I think we're going to have a pretty good product launch for our first go. Truck carrying the Lee family abruptly stopped in front of a drab building complex where a couple of stained and murky windows provided a glimpse into the conditions within, with rows of rustling old beds and mildew-infested walls. The facility's foreman, a Japanese man of short stature, gently stepped forward and crassly demanded the Lee family to get out and get settled, brandishing his truncheon. HoI, the younger brother, paid no heed to the unsubtle threat. "What gives you the authority to dictate what you do? You people forcibly dragged us out of our homes, and now you expect us to follow your rules?" Foreman merely looked amused before striking Hay onto the face with his truncheon. Chun saw red and stepped forward. He faintly heard his mother imploring him not to do anything rash before he slapped the foreman on the side of his face. Foreman dragged Chun by his collar out in the street, two draining blows in the fading dusk light. A passing police officer rushed over, reprimanding the foreman for treating workers in such a way. Foreman, eyes bulging, spat messily in the policeman's face before storming back in the dormitory, slamming the door in their faces. "You all better not get in any more trouble around here," the officer said, wiping slime from his face. "Come on, the cheapest tenements in town are this way. If you sell everything, you might just muster enough cash to get a little place." Chun's mother, May, profusely thanked the policeman as the family followed him. Chun glanced at the officer's badge, unsure whether to thank him or curse him for getting in between him and the detestable foreman. Officer Hayashi Kosen. We'll go ahead, get a few more rifles ordered. And yeah, I think it's about time to end it here, folks. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, leave a like. Good guy Hayashi, indeed. If you like, really like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you have any comments, feedback, and certainly leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments get, and appreciate any feedback you might have for me. If you want to keep up to date with the uploads, hit the sub button. Maybe hit the notification bell if you really want to keep up with it. I do uploads weekdays as well, occasionally Saturdays. A bunch of links down in the description box below, including my Twitch, which I'm filming this live on right now. Well, not right now. It's already been uploaded. I'm not streaming anymore. Well, I might be when this is uploaded, but you know what I mean. Anywho, check that out. But a bunch of other links in the description box below. That's it for now, my friends. My name has been Mr. Doggo333. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.